So thank you for joining me on the show today, Ken Okoroafor. You're like a
Yes,
brother from another mother, and I've
exactly.
and I've and I've watched you the few month or yeah, it was close to a year now since I stumbled on your profile. I don't know how that happened, but I was like, oh my goodness, and a lot of content that you've shared on financial growth, financial success. And I said, you know what, I have to get him on the show because I believe that this is a very key component when it comes to personal growth. I know that the area of finance is an area that is not so much talked about. People, choose to ignore it for one reason or the other. It's something that I wanted us to have a conversation on podcast. So thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and you need no introduction, but I want to just give you the opportunity to tell our audience on Grow This Personal Podcast who is Ken Okoroafor.
So, Emeka, thank you for having me, man. Do you know what? It means the world to be able to come on a show like yours and just talk about my journey and stuff. I'm Ken Okoroafor. My middle name is Emeka, as I've told you before.
Yes,
We have a lot more, we have a lot more in common, you
oh
know.
man, yes.
And do you know what? Officially, I mean, people can kind of look up, but I run the Humble Penny with my wife Mary and our sister brand called Financial Joy Academy. We're also Sunday Times best-selling authors of our debut book titled Financial Joy, a 10-week plan to help you banish debt, grow your money, and unlock financial freedom. What we're really known for is that we work as a couple, and our journey, we became financially independent at the age of 34, including mortgage-free in 7 years. And that work has led us to start to share our experiences to help empower other people on their journey. I'm a first generation immigrant to the UK. So I moved here when I was 14, born and raised in Nigeria. And, so I know that immigrant struggle well, as our people say, I know it well, you know,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
trying to, come into a new country, new culture, pretty much, the struggles of first generation immigrants. So I've known that really, really well in the UK, and navigating that and effectively trying to win, because it's a game. This whole thing's a game, and trying to win the game has not been easy. You've had to overcome many challenges, including, you know, deportation threats, all the things that people face when they're immigrants to a new country, lack of money, limited rights, just struggles with a new culture, new people, just trying to find a way in the UK and a way in the world, really. So our work is there to empower people. We want to help people to become financially free. We want to empower them to do what we've done and beyond. We want to help them to live a life of abundance and freedom. And we know it's possible, even if you are a newbie, even if you're like just starting out. I know life can seem very challenging, but I know a lot's possible if you have a bit of a game plan. So
Hmm.
our work is there to empower people to create that game plan for their lives and for their finances.
Hmm. That's a beautiful introduction. I want to go straight into what you see. I've seen a couple of, and if you look at social media now, there are a lot of videos and comments about people, who I thought I still saw a video yesterday about someone complaining about the fact that if you are, don't go to the UK, blah, blah, blah. It's, if you don't have your act together, you don't have a plan, it's gonna be a tough time. So I want to know from you, what are the things, when I talk about your personal growth journey to where you are today, what are the fundamentals that we have to be able to get to be able to lay a foundation for financial success? What are the things that you had to, what if you say, these are the fundamentals that you have to sort out, what would that be to lay the foundation for financial success?
So this is actually a really good question. And I'd say that a lot that when I think about foundations, I think about three broad things. I think about mindset, I think about skill set, and I think about tool set. And I'll come back to, and then I'll go into a bit more of a granular level in a minute.
Hmm.
But when I think about money, money, oftentimes people just think money is really just about, the numbers and how do you make money grow and that sort of thing. And yes, it is about those things. But I'd say that a big fundamental when it comes to money is the shift in mindset from, operating from a place of scarcity, which a lot of us do a lot of the time, particularly if you're just starting out and you don't really know, how to navigate life, or you've come from a family that hasn't really built wealth at all. There's a scarcity mindset that we all grow up with. And a big fundamental is, how do you begin to shift that mindset from a place of scarcity to a place of abundance, where you're operating from a place of not just leaving money in your bank account, but you really want that money to, to grow and create more wealth for you in different ways. So mindset is a very broad topic. Money mindset, understanding our relationship with money, is very, very important, because a lot of us have different relationships that can be healthy or can be toxic. A lot of that is encapsulated in mindset. So that's the first bit, I'd say, is a fundamental on the journey for financial success. The second is skill set. I can tell you now that if I hadn't improved my skill set in different ways, acquired new skills, or in fact acquired lucrative skills, I can tell you now that I would not be where I am today. I needed to up my level. I needed to learn skills that were relevant in the marketplace, that could help me earn an income. But you see, the thing about skill set and earning an income is there are a lot of people who earn good income, but they struggle to keep that income as well. They struggle to keep that money. So I'd say a big fundamental when it comes to this journey of financial success is the degree to which you are able to simplify your lifestyle and live within your means. Now, this is actually a really important point, because, particularly for people who are starting out and, like I did, who are starting in a new country and trying to figure their lives out, it's easy to kind of want to do what everybody else is doing, to do what people are doing on social media, to really be part of the culture, to be part of that consumerist culture. But the thing I figured out on my journey is that unless you are able to subscribe to a simple lifestyle, such that the more you earn money, and provided your lifestyle is fairly simple, the more you're able to create a buffer that gives you back some of your power. Because a lot of life in the West, whether you're in Canada or in the US or the UK, a lot of that life is literally living paycheck to paycheck for a lot of people. They work, they earn money, and that money is just being used to pay for bills, pay for debt, pay for lifestyle. A lot of people don't have freedom. The only way you buy back freedom is to start to create a bit of a buffer. Effectively, you're saving money and you're investing that money and putting that money to work. And that's only ever possible if somebody has subscribed to a simpler lifestyle, such that they are able to have certain goals and they're able to work towards those goals because of their money. Now, the third thing I'd say when it comes to fundamentals is then having the right tool sets to help you. So, you can't get into a battle without the right weapons, right? You can't get into, you know, designing the life you want without the right tool set, right? So by tool sets here, I'm talking about like what is your life's vision? What goal do you have for your life? This is all part of a tool set. And getting more granular, what sort of tools do you need to now enable that life's vision? So we wrote a book, like I mentioned earlier. We decided to make the book a 10-week plan. It's effectively a tool set to help people be able to go on a step-by-step basis. Another tool set could be that somebody has coaching from somebody else. That's a tool set to help them avoid mistakes. It's a tool set to help them stay accountable and get results. Other tool sets could be stuff like working out your net worth. Did you know that most people do not know what their net worth is? They've never worked it out. They don't track their net worth. And as we know, what gets measured gets improved, right? So if you're able to measure something, you're much more likely to be able to improve it over time. Another tool set is actually our habits and our behaviors. Do we have poor money habits, or do we have quite healthy money habits? Poor money habits are things like, emotional spending. Like you wake up at night, like at 12 midnight, you suddenly feel, oh, it's payday, I need to treat myself. So you go and you spend a bit of money to make yourself feel good. Poor money habits is buying a takeaway whenever you just feel like buying it without a sense of budgeting for it or planning towards where your money goes. Poor money habits is literally spending your money without actually putting any percentage of your money to work every single month. All these areas, habits, behaviors fall into that bucket of tool set. So I'd say the fundamentals really come down to zooming out and just embracing that there are three core areas that one needs to master. It's the state of their mindset. It's what are they doing to improve their skill set, and finally, what tool sets are they enabling to help them to achieve their life's vision.
Awesome. Let's talk about mindset. What are the ways to improve your mindset when it comes to financial freedom?
Mhm.
If you mention three ways to improve your mindset, what would that be?
Okay, can I just check something with you? Are you hearing like a fuzz in the sound, in the audio? Are you hearing like a crackling sound, like a fuzz at all?
No.
You're not? Okay, okay. Maybe it's just on my end. I mean, it's fine then.
Yeah.
Maybe it's recording properly. Okay, so
Yeah.
so ask me again. So what are three ways of improving one's money mindset?
Mindset. Yes,
Okay.
money mindset.
So it's good to actually understand what mindset actually means before we even talk about three ways of improving it. So mindset relates to one's thoughts and beliefs about something. And a money mindset relates to what are their unique thoughts and beliefs when it comes to money. Their unique thoughts and beliefs. So I'll give you an example, right? Imagine that you grew up and you grew up with a saying that money doesn't grow on trees. Yeah. You heard this a lot from your parents. Yeah. Or you heard from your parents or maybe family members that money is the root of all evil, for example. Yeah. This is a particular unique mindset that somebody would have inherited from either the environment or family members and that sort of thing. Yeah. And that unique money mindset that they have then could then lead to either them having certain ways that they look at money. Say, for example, I know many people who are of the Christian community who go, oh, because money is the root of all evil, I don't want to deal with money. I don't want to make money because it's conflicting with my faith. It's conflicting with my beliefs, for example. Yeah. That's their unique perspective on money. And that perspective is actually a wrong perspective because it's the love of money that is the problem, not money by itself. But how do you then go about improving that money mindset? I think the first thing to do is actually acknowledge, understand what your relationship with money looks like. But secondly, one thing that's helped me on my journey to improve my mindset personally is modeling the right money habits. So modeling is very important. So who do you know around your life who is doing something that you really want to do? And what are they
Right.
doing? What are the secrets to their success? What are, as I say, success leaves clues? Like what things are they doing? What does their lifestyle look like? What are they doing with their money when they earn it? Where does the money go when it comes into their bank accounts? So modeling is one really powerful way of shifting our mindsets, finding somebody who we really admire, modeling certain habits and behaviors that they have around their money will over time help us to shift our mindset. The second I've personally found is I find that reading books helps to shift my mindset in a massive way. So whether it's I'm reading books about money or about business, or about creativity or about sales or marketing, I've personally found that even if I've never done something and I'm reading a book where somebody is showing me the blueprint of how they did something, or they're sharing with me their lived experiences, whether they've had failures or they've had successes, I find that over time, that begins to shift my mindset. I start to believe that I too can do those things. I start
Right.
to believe that my failures are not so bad and that I too can have certain successes in my life. I start to think a lot bigger. It expands my imagination and so much more. The third thing I would say is about repetition. So repetition is actually a really powerful thing. What we say with our mouths and what we allow ourselves to embrace shifts our mindset. I'll give you an example. One thing that I discuss or talk about with our children, my wife and I have two boys aged 11 and 9. One thing we talk about every single day or every couple of days is repeating certain mantras that I know is helping to shift our mindsets. One of them I want to share with you today is, it's a very popular saying, and here it is. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, your mind can achieve. This is actually a really, really powerful thing to say to yourself, almost an affirmation that has the power to shift one's mindset over time. It wouldn't happen overnight, but over time, it has the power to shift one's mindset. Why? Because you can connect that saying or that idea to instances where you have had successes or even had failures. So, for example, I give you an example. I use our book as an example. The book Financial Joy was just an idea. In fact, at one point, it was not an idea. It had to be conceived, first of all. It had to become something that in the intangible world, we had to embrace as something that could become our reality. We had to embrace the possibility that we could become authors and be seen by other people as authors. That conception of the idea was the beginning. Because we had to, first of all, go, wow, could this be something that we could be associated with? Could we be the people who people could point to and say, wow, these guys are authors? We had to conceive the idea and what the book would be about, how the book could change people's lives. Conceiving the idea was the first thing. And in order to conceive the idea, we had to fight distractions. We had to say no to the naysayers. We had to really work on certain things that meant that we were like, wow, we've conceived the idea of this possibility. But we had to take another step, which is to believe that it was possible. And believing is about taking a faith walk. It's about saying, wow, this thing hasn't happened. I don't have a book in my hand, but I believe that one day, 18 months from now, 24 months from now, I will have a book in my hand. And faith is a tool set. Remember, I talked about skill set, tool set, and mindset. Faith is a tool set.
That's
because
right.
faith helps to enable so much in our lives. It helps us to go beyond just the physical, because faith is about essentially seeing what other people might not see physically. It's about saying, you know what, I can see something happening. I can see this vision come into life. And then I need to take the practical steps. I need to walk the walk to bring this into reality. Yeah. So there's the conceiving the idea, there's the believing the idea, and then the achieving aspect of it is then putting in the work. It's then taking the steps to make things happen. In our world, it was coming up with a book outline, starting to speak to publishers, starting to book times out to go to hotels and like block out 1 week to just work on the book. It's about taking those practical steps to then make things happen. Now, when you look at why you might not have achieved something in your life, it will be that you were let down by one of those 3 steps. It will be that you either didn't conceive the idea because you were just distracted by life, or it could be that you did not believe in the idea because somebody talked you out of it, or you just didn't have faith, or it could be that you didn't achieve the idea simply because you didn't take practical action. You didn't wake up in the morning, you didn't carve out time to work on it, you didn't you just let life overwhelm you. And therefore, you did not, over time, stay consistent enough to achieve the outcome. And the beauty about this is that over time, this begins to shift your mindset. Because if you've got this way of looking at life, even when life presents you with many difficulties and challenges, you always remember it's about conceive, it's about believe, it's about achieve. If you're able to bring these 3 things together, you find that over time, even if you're somebody who has a difficulty with their mindset and stuff, you find that over time you start to experience a shift in your mindset.
Wow. I almost started to preach it, Pastor. Well, oh my goodness. It was almost 4 minutes of depth, because I believe that this is something that is missing. This is a missing component in a lot of our lives in achieving financial success that we're looking for. And this part where you mentioned conceiving, I think it's also because it's almost like an ABC. right? But it's CBA, but it's ABC. Now, if you look at the conceiving part, that is the missing link, because people can do stuff, people want to take action, but the fact that life distracts us from conceiving.
Yes.
Conceiving. And you mentioned something around, I used to call it the frame of reference. Like, what is the frame of reference to what you want to achieve? Because that helps to conceive it. Like, what is your vision? But I remember some time ago, and my wife moved in here before me to Canada, and I moved to join her. And I had this thing called a vision board, right? And sometimes people come and I was like, what's this? I'm like, it's a vision board. And some of the things I put there, people like, this is, my wife as first didn't really understand, but later she caught it, because every little thing we wrote on that vision board, we had a picture of what that represents. It happened because you want to be able to wire your brain to conceive, because the world will not give you that space. You have to be intentional to create an environment where you can conceive. Because if you can't conceive, you can't deliver. That's like a woman. If you don't conceive, you can't deliver the baby. Right? So that conception, and that's why you see a lot of people today. If we go to the delivery pace of giving birth to child, one of the struggles of a woman is always that part of conceiving. If she can conceive, she can be able to manage the process of delivering it. So I think this, what you just mentioned right now, I will go back and play it. And everyone who's listening here, please go back to this point to really, because you need to digest this to understand it. Because where you are today, this is the step. This is the basics of how it happened. Right? So I want to go straight on another concept of financial joy. I love the concept. I love the word. I feel like when you hear the word, it brings life into you, right? That joy. So to you, or from you, I want to hear from the horse's mouth. What exactly is financial joy, number one? And can you help us break down the concept of these three pillars? Because you mentioned banished debt, which is one area, growing money, and financial freedom. So what is financial joy? And can you give a little bit of context to how to banish debt, grow money? I know that's a very big question to ask. But let's see what you can do to this question.
Okay. So, and thank you for asking that. So financial joy is a model and mindset that brings together two worlds that ordinarily don't exist together. So it's bringing together the financial world, which is about the wealth journey that we're all on. But usually that wealth journey is usually at the cost of the joy, which is the well-being picture that most of us ignore. So financial joy is about creating a balance of wealth and well-being. Wealth is what we want. Wealth is about the journey towards financial freedom. It's about you saying, you know what? I want to become more financially secure. I want to over time have more financial flexibility, more independence, and more freedom. However, without well-being, without the fun, without family life, without purpose, without certain other elements, without your health, there's really no wealth that would exist. So financial joy effectively is, not only is it a destination that's accessible to anybody at the moment, because you think about it, with financial freedom, you have to wait until you get to a particular point where you can say, oh, I'm now financially free. And for a lot of people, they say, oh, I am not happy until I'm financially free. But what we're saying is we're challenging that notion and saying, well, actually, you can experience financial joy today, because for everybody, their custom life of financial joy will be unique to them and will be different for everybody else. For example, if I said to you, what does financial joy look like for you? When you articulate it in your own words, it will be very different to what I might think is financial joy for my life, and it'll be different to what our listeners might think financial joy looks like for them. For some people, financial joy is, I just want to be able to pay my bills on time every month and have some money left over for some fun. For some people, financial joy is, I want to be completely free of debt and I want to experience some financial flexibility so that if I lost my job, I would not have any difficulties. For some people, financial joy is, I want to be completely mortgage free because I want to one day take on entrepreneurship fully and not feel that I've got this weight of a mortgage over my shoulder. For some people, financial joy is, do you know what? It's about time with my partner, time with my family. It's about feeling that I'm not always working all the time, but I have time for myself to enjoy life and travel the world. So you see, it differs. So in the book, what we get people to do, and the book's very practical, is we get people to design their life of financial joy. So it's like bringing together two worlds. If you had to paint a vision for your financial element as well as the joy element, what would it look like? Say, for example, in my current vision, on the financial element, I want to remain financially independent. I want to invest a certain proportion of my income every month to make sure that I'm creating more freedom. On the joy element, I want to be able to travel. I have every August, my wife and I take the month off and we travel, we switch off, we don't work, we don't run our businesses, they just run in the background, and we just travel the world. We go to places that we want to enjoy with our children. Sometimes we travel with just by ourselves, and then for the remainder of the month, we travel with our children. That for us brings us joy. Now, joy doesn't have to cost money. Joy could just be, do you know what? I've got a nice, I have a nice garden and I like chilling in my garden and playing table tennis or football with my children. Or joy could just be going for a walk in the park. Joy could be, going to the movies every week with my partner or just with a friend. Joy could be anything we define it to be, and it will vary for everybody. But the key in financial joy is that financial joy doesn't prioritize our goal for financial freedom at the cost of our well-being. Financial joy challenges us to bring these two worlds together and make this a desirable destination, such that we are pursuing our own unique life of financial joy, and we're not comparing ourselves to other people and experiencing, FOMO or the comparison trap that usually keeps people, living above their means and doing things that they shouldn't really be doing with their finances. So that's what financial joy is about. It's a destination, it's a mindset, it's a model for people who earn money and spend money that will help them design a balanced life of wealth and well-being. Now, the subtext of financial joy is that we have a heavy emphasis on banishing debt, growing your money, and unlocking financial freedom as a subtitle to the book. Now, when we talk about banishing debt, what do we mean exactly? You see, the thing about the West and living life in the West compared to, say, living life where you and I are from in Nigeria, for example, is that a lot of the systems in the West are built on debt. Now, debt has two ways you can look at it. Debt, a lot of people live their lives sponsored by debt. So they live on credit cards, they have mortgages, they have various other forms of debt. They mean that every single month, someone is always paying back some form of debt. A lot of people don't experience freedom because of debt. Now, debt can also be used as a tool if you understand how to use debt as a tool to build wealth. However, it takes a while to get to that level where you are somebody who's able to take debt and use it as an instrument, a bit like equities. You're using debt as an instrument to build wealth, to employ leverage, to help you to build wealth, maybe acquiring property, for example, or maybe going into business and what have you. So banishing debt is really all about taking control. It's about taking back power. Yeah, because something really powerful happens when you are free in a way, such that any money you make goes towards sponsoring your lifestyle, paying for food, paying for that sort of thing, but also going towards other elements, such as actually investing and creating more freedom rather than trying to pay down debt all the time. So we always recommend that people begin with paying off their most expensive debts. So things like your credit cards and payday loans, or things that are essentially very expensive for people in outside the UK. It might be student loans, or even in the UK it could be student loans and what have you, but essentially paying down their debt. For some, it could be overpaying on their mortgage. We focused a lot on our mortgage, and we paid off our mortgage in 7 years. And I can tell you, Emeka, it's one of the most life-changing things I've ever done, because it's created a deeper level of freedom. We paid it off in 7 years. And I can tell you, not only has it empowered me to live my career, to, pursue entrepreneurship fully, to essentially win back my time and live life on my own terms, it's also given us a deep level of financial security, which means that every single month, all I have to think about is, my council tax, which is a home tax, electricity and gas, the internet, food, quite straightforward expenses that I have to think about as a household. And if you couple that with living a simpler lifestyle, it means that even if your business doesn't go well, even if your career doesn't go as well as you want, you have a deep sense of freedom. And if things do go very well, the money you're making is then going towards investing in other asset classes that create even more freedom for you, whether it's investing in the stock market, investing in property and beyond, or in other business ventures. So
Mm.
banishing debt is a very powerful thing because you're winning back a lot of your own life and winning back a lot of freedom. Now, once you've banished debt, once you are free of debt, you're now creating quite a lot of buffer in your finances, and the future then becomes about, how do I grow my money? How do I make my money work on money? How do I enable compound interest to really work for me? How do I put money into the stock market? Yesterday, I was explaining to somebody, I was showing them a particular index fund and another ETF, exchange traded fund. I was saying to them that if you'd invested your money in 2012, for example, in this particular index fund, 12 years later, if you'd invested $10,000 into that fund, 12 years later, it would have been sitting at $85,000 for only $10,000. If you extrapolate that and said, if you invested $100,000 or £100,000, it will be sitting at £850,000 or dollars 12 years later. Your money would have gone up 8.5 times in 12 years for doing no extra work, for simply having your money invested in the right environment. So a big part of financial success is not only protecting the downside, getting rid of debt, taking control, budgeting, and getting our habits in the right place. It's also about acquiring an ROI mindset, an investor mindset, and saying, if I put my money to work, what will be my expected return on investment? What is my outlook for the next 20 years, the next 40 years? What's my family vision? If I'm thinking about my family, how do I want life to look for our family 50 years from now? And what do we need to be doing today to enable compounding to get to work for our family? If I have children, these children in 10 years, my children are going to be at university in the next 10 years. What do I need to be doing today to make sure that they are not indebted with lots of student loan debt when they get to that level? How do I help them create some level of financial security in the next 15 years so that they could get their foot on the property ladder and begin to own their own homes and own their own investments? So you see, this type of thinking is different to the initial type of thinking, which is all about taking control, gaining back control. But once you have control, it's about how do you then deploy that power? How do you deploy that power and the money that you are making to then create more freedom and more wealth? This is where you start to look at different asset classes and how those asset classes align with your goals. So, for example, you want to retire, let's say by the age of 50, for example, and have the option to do whatever you want, whenever you want. And let's say you're currently 35 years old. You've got 15 years to make your goal a reality. The type of assets you choose to achieve that goal will differ. You have 15 years, that's a decent amount of time. So investing in the stock market will be a wise thing to do because your money can work on money. But you might also want to explore property or real estate because you can employ different strategies that might help you to get to your goal a lot quicker. You might want to explore other assets, like a business, for example, or a joint venture with somebody else. So you can start to see that the mindset you need here will be very different. And again, these all play into the concept of financial joy, because financial joy is, like I said to you, it's a model for achieving our goals, and it's a mindset for helping us to achieve a desirable vision that we have for our lives. And this is where things start to get a little bit more advanced, because the minute you start to look at assets and look at the future direction of your money, you are unlocking financial freedom. You are that person who's not just thinking of survival, but you are someone who's not thinking, how do I thrive? How do I get to that next level? How do I make money work on money? Imagine, and I don't say this to brag, actually, Emeka, but you know, I'm very fortunate today, and bear in mind, I started as a first generation immigrant to this country. I'm very fortunate today to be somebody who is in complete control of my time. And I don't necessarily need to work for money. Yeah. And that's a beautiful place to be, because the assets we have, the things we've built up over time, are able to cover our ongoing living expenses and lifestyle expenses. And this is somewhere that I believe that everybody can get to eventually. Will it happen overnight? No, it will not happen overnight, because nothing happens overnight. Building a business takes time. Investing in assets takes time. Compounding interest takes time. Getting out of debt takes time. Everything takes time. But the key is the mindset, because if you've got the mindset right, if you are working on your skill set and improving over time, and if you've got the right tool sets and the right systems and the right processes and the right people around you, then you are guaranteeing success for the future.
Ah, my goodness. This is rich information. I want to take you on the debt part. You mentioned almost like you said, good debt and bad debt, right? So at what point should we be making that switch? Because some people say, for example, that paying off a mortgage, now you did yours in 7 years. Some people will say that what if you had not paid that off, take equity from that property and invest in another property? What would you say to that school of thought?
Yeah, and just so you know, just because we paid off our mortgage, sorry, just a second, it's just a misload. Sorry, hold on a second. Can you hear me properly? Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little bit of
Okay,
lagging,
hold on.
but
Just hang
it's
on there.
I
Let me
can
just
hear
see
you.
if I can close some things down, see if that helps you. One sec.
Hmm.
This is a great question, by the way. I love this question because it's one that a lot of people ask all the time. I'll give you my perspective on this. Okay, let's try it now. I can't hear any fuzz now. I think it's working properly. So, you see, just because you pay off your mortgage doesn't mean you don't do other things, or doesn't mean that you don't use leverage to invest in other assets, you invest in property, for example. Yeah, it doesn't mean you don't have other property assets. Now, that school of thought that says rather than pay off your mortgage, take all the equity out of it and leverage yourself up to the ceiling and buy more property can work for some people and does work for some people, depending on the situation you're in and the cycle you're in. Yeah. So in the world where interest rates were rock bottom, it made so much sense because debt was very, very cheap. You could take the money out. It was like next to nothing. You were basically borrowing money for free. And you could go ahead and you could invest that money and it will work well for certain strategies. However, when you think about the level of interest rates at the moment, which are quite high still, the base rate is very high, depending on what part of the world you're in, it's high across the board, really. When you think about that and think about the fact that it's a lot harder to do what people are saying, it's not as easy to replicate that same result with certain models. Now, you can do it and get the results. Depending on what model you focus on from a property investing perspective. I'll give you an example. In the UK, we have a thing called the house of multiple occupancy, where you're renting particular rooms within a house, thereby increasing the overall return you might get from that particular unit, thereby being able to achieve a decent return, even though you might have borrowed money at, say, 5%, 6%, and that sort of thing. So my point is that model can work for some people, but it's not for everybody because it really exposes you in a really massive way and could lead to problems for somebody who might not be comfortable with managing their cash flow properly or managing their life, their finances in their lives more generally. So theoretically, that model does work and can work for some people, but it doesn't always work all the time. Yeah. And it's a lot more difficult in a period where interest rates are a lot higher. Yeah. However, paying off your mortgage, particularly if you're able to do it quite quickly, gives you a guaranteed return, right? But you can do it in combination with other things. So, for example, we did it while still making other investments in other areas. We were still investing in the stock market. We were still doing joint ventures with other people to look into property, for example. So, there isn't really one pathway to achieving financial freedom. There are different ways of doing it. I think the key thing is choosing the strategy that works for your personal circumstances and for the type of goals you have in your life. For us, I wanted to change careers. I wanted to leave the corporate world. I didn't want to have a mortgage hanging over me whilst I was making those transitions. For me, it was very easy. Like if you live the corporate world without a mortgage, you have no, like, there's no wahalas, there's no problems. Like, if things don't
Right.
work out, it's okay. Like, you just work a lot harder and things will work out, right? So for me, it worked for the type of life we wanted to create for ourselves. But the thing I wanted to mention to you that a lot of people don't consider is they think that just because you've paid off your mortgage means that you're not doing anything else. Like, you can do whatever you want. You can invest in, any assets you want. You can invest in property. You can invest in stocks. You can invest in commodities. You can invest in anything you want. The key is just doing it in a way that works for you, whilst just being careful, because it's not a one size fits all. Just don't say because everybody's taking equity out of their home and investing, it's what you should also be doing for your life. You have to really consider for your circumstances and for the goals. I'll give you an example. Some people have health problems. They have personal problems. That mean that having a home paid off without any problems is actually a lot less risky for them. Some people are a lot older. That means that, over leveraging themselves might not be the best thing to be doing at that stage of their lives. There are different things that people need to consider. But I think people need to personalize those decisions, just make sure they're doing what's right for them.
Awesome. Great response. What are the 3 habits that keep people poor?
I would say living above one's means that it's definitely a habit that keeps people poor. So, sponsoring your life based on credit is definitely a big red flag. I would also say the habit of literally over consuming. So you notice in our Nigerian community, the African community, everybody wants to have a nice car, right?
Right.
But if you ask those people, how much do you have in your investing account? Not many of them have any money invested. They don't even know what an
Don't,
tax
don't get me
efficient
started
investing
on that
account
one.
means. No, but
Whoa,
bro,
yeah.
like I have to call this out, right?
Hmm.
So this is a terrible habit to have, right? You go to a party, people show up with their really nice cars. But then you say, like, how much you have invested? If you lost your job today, how long would you
Hmm.
last for? People would not last for 3 months. They might not even last for 1 month. So this habit of subscribing to the consumer lifestyle is a terrible habit that keeps a lot of people poor. Another habit I say that keeps people poor is spending money before you've made it. Yeah, I'll give you an
Hmm.
example. You go on Instagram, you see a lot of people are going on holidays, going on vacations, and you too want to go on vacations, right? But you don't have the money to go on a vacation. So instead, what do? You borrow the money and book the holiday, and you expect that maybe in a few months down the line, you make the money back either from your job, from savings, or maybe from a bonus that might come or might not come. I think this is a terrible habit, right? Because yes, you can use credit cards to book your holiday, but you usually should only do it if you've planned for it. If you've got that money set aside, and maybe using a credit card because it's safer and it protects you more from a legal perspective, or it gives you, travel points that you're collecting for your travel. So I'd say those are some of the points that jump out to me that keep people poor. It's usually about lifestyle. People are living above their means, man. Looking rich when in actual fact they are far from rich.
Yeah, I think the second one is very important to buttress because that is what I see a lot. Excuse me, especially for new immigrants. We've seen cases where people come in, and the first thing they're doing is they're getting a car, what more than even a house, like more than
Yep.
the down payment of a house, just
Yep.
because they want to look like. I remember when the first car we got, I and my wife, was $1,500. I mean, that
Wow.
was, and we paid for it cash. And when we tell friends that it was a very small car, a Chevy, and friends
Wow.
like, why did you like? And I'm like, no, we don't want to go and be doing a financing for a car when we know the use of a car is to get from point A to point B. And we're able to pay it off and not have to think about it. And it's a very user-friendly car. It uses low on gas
Nice.
because we had a plan. And even when we moved to the next one, it was not far from it because one of the concepts I've seen a lot of people do that keeps them tied up is this over consuming, where
Yes.
they beyond just the mortgage, there is the the car debt where they're paying financing the car,
Yep.
So I'm glad that you call that out, and I think it's anyone watching, listening, right? If you in fact moving to a country, you should be able to set up certain things before you begin to incur certain debts. I don't want to go into details, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Like I mean, yes, you want to buy the flashy car, but do you have to get that car where you have to be paying that you can't even, you should be working 3 jobs just to be able to keep up?
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
it's
really
terrible, man.
ridiculous.
I tell you, so many people are led astray by other people. This is a really bad habit, is this habit of just following other people, just following
Yeah.
people. People are led astray. I think it's really sad, really, that people have really bad self-awareness. They don't really understand who they are. They don't understand what they want out of life, and they're really just led by other people. Imagine, like your sister buys a nice car, you suddenly feel like, oh, I need to look good as well. I need to buy a nice car. Your neighbor buys a nice car. You too feel like you need to buy a nice car. You need to keep up. So a lot of people's lives is about keeping up, and
Hmm.
keeping up keeps people poor.
Hmm. Keeping up keeps people poor. I like that. Let's talk about so what should we, if for someone to be financially free right now, what are the strategies they should begin to implement right now, to get them to financial freedom? It's a big question, but what would you mention to someone who's asking for advice now to be financially free? What should I begin to do now,
I think
today?
the first thing is really, complete plug, but you need to read our book. You need to go and read Financial Joy, the book itself, which is a 10-week plan to help you banish debt, grow your money, and unlock financial freedom. And I say that because we've written it from our perspective as of people who've actually done what we are saying. So I know that's a side plug, but it's a necessary plug. Please go and read the book, because there aren't many people who look like us, who have our unique experiences, who've done what we've done, and who are actually willing to share their knowledge and experience. So reading the book is almost like a cheat code. Go and read it and accelerate your journey. That's a starting point. But if I had to just zoom out and just pretend like you've not got the book, and just share a few tips, I'd say that first of all, usually, you know, the thing about things like financial freedom is that a lot of people look at it from the perspective of this emotional goal. I'm like, I want to be financially free. I want to just, do what I want when I want, But what does that actually mean? Like, what does it actually mean for you? What I'd love you to be able to work out is, what is your freedom number? What are you actually aiming for? So a really good place to begin is to be very clear on what your goal is. Are you aiming for $500,000? Is it $1 million? Is it 600,000? Or do you want 5K a month to cover your expenses? Like, what is it you're aiming for? Right? That's the
Hmm.
first thing. What's the number? Yeah. And then it's a question of why is that your goal? Yeah. So in the book, we talk about this framework, the POST framework, POST. P stands for purpose. Purpose is your why. Why do you want to achieve financial freedom? How will it change your life? What would it do for your family and your generation? What would it do for your children? What would it do for you as an individual? How would it impact your career if you were financially free? Writing those things down actually matter, because it gives you a sense of motivation. It gives you a sense of, like, wow, this is an important enough goal for me to take it seriously. This is so important that it's my number one goal. It's the number one goal above every other goal that I've got, because you know why it matters for you. Yeah. So after you made it clear why it matters, then it's about the O imposes the objectives. What's the goal? Like I mentioned earlier, how much are you aiming for? Let's say you're aiming for, say, £600,000 or $600,000, right? That's your goal. Let's just say that that's how much you need, you know, for you to make work optional, right? Okay, great. Now, what is the strategy? That's the S in the post, POST. What's the S? What's the strategy that will get you there? Now, there are different strategies that you can focus on. An easy strategy to begin is to focus on stock market investing. That's easy. Well, when I say it's easy, it's something you can learn and begin in the next, say, 3 days, right? If you have the right information and the right materials, you can begin investing, gain some confidence, and begin investing your money. The second is career maximization. A lot of people take for granted the fact that their career is the income they generate from their job is one of the most powerful wealth generation tools that they've got. People take it for granted. Why? Because if you think about your job, yeah, and think about the fact that in a job, you're being paid a certain level of income, you're being paid a certain level of benefits, and that includes your employer making pension contributions and all of those various things. It includes the fact that you can develop as an individual. You may even get sponsored qualifications from your employer. But effectively, maximizing your career is one of the most powerful things you can do. Like I went from someone who was a cleaner. I used to, I started life in the UK. My first job was cleaning for £80 in a week to becoming, a CFO on, a six-figure basic with a really generous bonus and various other benefits. That took time. That took about 15 years to arrive at that. But my point is, I maximized my career. But in addition to maximizing my career, I put my money to work. Because remember, the career is the vehicle, right? And out of that, you then move on to potential strategy number 3, which is a side hustle or a business. Alongside your day job, you need to be doing something else. That means that not only are you building your own table and giving yourself a safety net, but you are also creating a way for you to accelerate your path towards financial freedom. Why does that matter? It matters because you are creating another alternative for yourself. But at the same time, this business on the side could speed up that journey towards you achieving that 600K example that we used earlier. Number 4 is then you exploring other asset classes. For example, did you know that I've known somebody who within 3 years of beginning their journey of saying, oh, I want to achieve financial freedom. Within 3 years of beginning that journey, they invested in 2 properties that replaced over £5,000 of their monthly expenses each month, created £5,000 in income for them, such that they went from, rather than their financial freedom taking them 15 years or 10 years, they were able to achieve most of it in 3 years. Yeah. And the reason it worked out for them is they employed leverage. They were able to say, do you know what? I'll put down 25% deposit. The bank will give me 75%. I will create an investment plan for a property that I want to go into. I'll choose a particular strategy that worked for me, and I will employ leverage. And over time, making the right investments, this will pay off for me. Yeah, this is another way that people can go about doing it. And then the final bit I want to mention is lifestyle simplification. Lifestyle simplification is all about making sure that whilst you're doing all these various things, you are really living a very simple lifestyle and also working on paying off your debt. Because if you are able to get rid of debt and remain on a simple lifestyle, then all these other efforts, and there are many things I could mention, but all these other efforts are then creating the buffer for money to get to work. Yeah. So instead of your goal maybe taking you 12 years to achieve or 15 years to achieve, you could achieve your goal in 7 years or 5 years, for example. Yeah. And the thing I've always found is you can't do all these things at the same time. What I find really powerful is choosing about 2 particular strategies that you put all your effort into. Your thing could be career maximization and stock market investing, or it could be that you are focusing on stock market investing whilst investing in property, or it could be that you're focusing on maximizing your career whilst running a side hustle, or it could be that if you're really pushing it, you are maximizing your career, you've got a side hustle, but you're also investing in the stock market. But you need to layer a strategy on each other, because if you focus only on one strategy, you have a much lower chance of actually achieving your goal. Yes, you get there eventually, but it will take you a lot longer. But if you can stack, a bit like habit stacking, you know how if you've got an existing habit and you stack another habit on top of it, you find that that new habit is much more likely to stick. For example, if you're used to brushing your teeth every morning, but you also check your bank balance as soon as you brush your teeth, you're much more likely to actually be better at managing your finances. In the same way, you can stack these strategies. You can say, you know what? I'm focusing on my career. I'm trying to level up. But at the same time, I'm making it a key point to invest 20% of my income, net income every month in S&P 500. And at the same time, I'm running a side hustle that will help me to invest in property. If you're able to really focus on those core strategies and really set some very specific goals around them. So for example, your property goal could be that my goal is to raise, let's say you need $50,000 or $100,000 to be able to get your foot on a decent property deal. You could think, do you know what? My approach could be I could save all this money myself, or I could join venture with somebody else, either a family member or a trusted friend I've known for a while, and we could do this joint venture together to be able to get our foot on that ladder to be able to achieve a particular outcome. I think all of this stuff related to financial freedom and achieving our goals really begins at that very first stage of setting a picture of why this really matters to us, really being clear on what our goals are, choosing what our strategies are, and then your daily tactics will be the T in place. Your tactics is, what do I need to do next? Your thing could be, I need to open my next investing account. Your next thing could be, I need to create a separate pot for saving for property. Your next thing could be, I need to get onto doing an advanced qualification to increase my level of income. Your next thing could be, I need to speak to my boss and agree certain goals that might lead to a higher pay rise for me in the next 6 months. These are tactics. These are smaller steps that people can take to help them to achieve their strategy in order to achieve their objectives, in order to achieve the purpose that they set out to achieve.
Wow. Wow.
It's a lot to unpack.
It's a lot to unpack, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack. I mean,
But
I was going to ask a question around the three, because you mentioned lucrative skills. So I'm just going to ask you, what are the three lucrative skills that people should focus on right now if they want to be able to increase their income and financial freedom? What would be the three lucrative skills you highlight?
Let's say the first one is to learn how to invest, learn to invest your money and to get a return on investment. That's the first one. The second is to learn how to create an online business. So to control and own traffic, a business that you can run from anywhere in the world. Ideally one that gives you recurring income. So it could be a membership-based model. It could be a combination of models, a coaching model, an affiliate model. But effectively, you learn how to create and run an online business that makes you money. That's a very, very important skill. And obviously tied to that is learning how the technologies work, whether it's using AI or they're using other online technologies like email marketing and all those various things. That's a second very, very important skill to learn. And a third really powerful skill that I would learn is to learn how to be paid to speak. I think it's such a lucrative thing to be able to do, to be able to show up somewhere and be known for your ability to speak and communicate. So that speaking and communicating can be used in different ways. It could be used to write a book. It could be used to create a podcast. It could be used to speak on stages around the world. It could be used to offer workshops. It's such a powerful thing to be able to do. So those will be some of my core skills that I think are absolutely lucrative and will also remain relevant in the future. You know, if you learn how to invest, you will always be an investor. You can learn how to apply that to the stock market, to property, to any asset class that you're going into, because it's about the mindset, having the ROI mindset. If you create an online business, you can learn how to drive traffic. You can learn how to monetize that traffic. That's such a powerful skill, particularly in the ongoing digital age that we're in. And if you learn how to speak, you'll be able to convince people, you'll be able to negotiate, you'll be able to articulate yourself so well. Think about it. Some of the most well-paid people in the world are paid because of their ability to communicate. And I think it's one of the most lucrative skills that anyone can have.
That's powerful. And this cut across not just entrepreneurs or creators, even career professionals. You can leverage this and use, because I mean, I tell people, I still work full time, right? But I understand this concept. And that's why, I'm doing what I'm doing today and leveraging these three platforms. I think the one that I really need to work honing on is the online space and developing systems to do that. But
listen, if I had to give you one advice, it would be like really go hard on your YouTube channel. Really go hard on that.
Yeah.
Really, really go hard.
Yeah. I mean, we recently got to 700 from how many? Some weeks or months ago.
Set yourself. Listen. Become a student of the game.
Yeah.
This is how you're going to do it. Keep learning. And this is what I keep telling myself. Every video I make, I'm asking myself, how can I improve and be better on the next video?
That's right.
And I tell you, it will matter so much because the changing the habits the way we're consuming content's changing. We're not
Yeah.
watching traditional TV anymore.
Yes.
YouTube is huge today. Compare YouTube today to 10 years ago, and then think, how would that look 10 years from now? It will be so powerful. Yeah. And then if you
Yeah.
combine that with what you're doing on places like LinkedIn and all the other really powerful platforms, you could be, literally like, content media is a form of leverage in the
Yes.
same way that money, and debt is a form of leverage, right? So what I'm really saying here is to employ the power of media over time,
Media.
and
Yeah.
and use that to achieve your goals. And the beauty is that you can do it. I mean, look at that, man. I'm here in the UK, you're all the way there in Canada, right?
Yes.
And we're having this exchange, right? Just
Yes.
imagine.
Hmm.
And this exchange is not going to just live in a vacuum. It could be cut up in so many different ways
Yes.
and achieve so many different outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, I will give myself as an example. One of the thing that's really helping my speaking, business is even the podcast. I've literally got an invitation because someone, a manager in an organization, listened to the podcast. She said we have to invite this gentleman to come speak in our program or stuff they're having, right? So leveraging all of this just because they hear you talk on this platform. So I always tell, when they come, oh, prof, what can I do? I said, you have a message, you have something to say that, or you can take people from where you were to where you are, where you were before to where you are now. Then you can be able to leverage these things. And, speaking of what you just said about implementing as you go, I mean, one of the things that I've implemented today, right now, this podcast is before I usually introduce my guests and read their profile. But I said, you know what? I've observed that people don't wait in the YouTube video, so it gets them this, tired. So just go straight to the conversation. And I've implemented. Let's see how this video does as we publish
Yes.
it. So thank you for sharing that. And I think this is so important for us to be able to grow financially and even personally, because truly, once you have financial joy, there's a lot of things that get the issues we have today with people having issues in their marriages, in their relationship,
Oh
in their
man,
family. A lot of them is tied to finances because people,
bro,
oh man, it's a lot.
it's a huge topic, and it's timely you talk about this actually because I turned 40 recently, and I can tell you now, yeah, that I have had what I can only describe as the most joyful marriage and the most joyful, like, companionship with my wife, and a big part of the reason for that is because we've not let money become a problem for us, in that we've managed our finances well over time. It hasn't always been perfect. We've made mistakes in the past, as everybody makes mistakes. But one thing I can tell you is that if you can get your finances in shape, it's not only good for your future career because you have more choices, you have more options.
Hmm.
It's good for your marriage. It's good for the stability of your home because, you know, you have a safe and stable home. It's good for your children because it sets such a good example for your
Example.
children.
Hmm.
It gives you the freedom of time, because, like, you can buy back more of your own time because you're sorting your finances out. It gives you the freedom of purpose because you can do what you want when you want. It gives you the freedom of money, and it gives you the freedom of relationships. Like, there's so many benefits that come, from being able to get it right. And also, it makes you a more you have that freedom to give more generously, because a lot of the time it's not that people don't want to give money or give resources, it's just that they don't have it. They're just like, they don't have any money, like they're just struggling. But if
Hmm.
we can get to a place where we're better stewards of our finances and we have a simple lifestyle. I'll give an example. I was listening to, Mr. Beast, right? I was listening to
Hmm.
Mr. Beast the other day on YouTube. He did an interview with Joe Rogan. And it's really interesting just listening to him. This guy makes like millions upon millions upon millions upon millions, but he chooses a simple lifestyle. You know, he doesn't live in a mansion or anything like that. He lives in a decent sized home, drives a decent car, nothing flashy by any standard, but a lot of his time and money is reinvested into his business and into his philanthropic activities. And for me, you know, that just says so much. You know, if you observe certain people, look at Warren Buffett, look at, you know, if you observe certain people in the world who are doing quite phenomenal things, look at how they're living their lifestyles, look at how they're focusing on doing purpose-led work. They're very mission-driven. I think that there's a lot we can take away from, you know, modeling these, you know, modeling what, you know, the right habits, modeling what people have done in very successful ways, and applying them in small ways to our own lives to get quite similar results.
Powerful. Wow, thank you so much for sharing so willingly and openly, Ken. I would like to call you Emeka.
Please do, please do, please do, please do.
But I'm really grateful. I do ask my guests the final 3 questions. I don't. I just reveal it on the spot, and you can answer it in one word. Or you can speciate on the word. So the first question is: if you were to go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
The one piece of advice I'd give my younger self is to start investing a lot earlier. That's it. Literally, if you can start investing in your teenage years, start investing. Like literally, yesterday, I got 2 people did work experience with Mary and I, my wife and I. We got them to start investing for the first time, Emeka, in their lives. She was age 15 and he was age 17 years old, and they bought the S&P 500 index yesterday for the first time by themselves, after doing their own due diligence, whilst we helped them to, you know, analyze everything themselves, and they got their, you know, their parents gave them consent and what have you. They invested for the first time themselves. Imagine how powerful that would be if more people did that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm gonna go to that to my question, because you touched something on that. What's the one best thing anyone in their 30s should start now to be financially free? Now, this is, you know, younger stuff, but I want to emphasize on the 30s.
I would say one of the best things anyone in their 30s can do is saving and investing at least 20% of their net income. 20%. If you can do 10% as a starting point, yes, but aim for 20% and beyond if you can. It will be very difficult, but I tell you, if you're keeping, you know, a fifth of all your money and you're investing it into your future, it will be life-changing for you over time. In fact, I made a video, and I'd love you to link to it in this video if you can. I made a video yesterday titled 12 of the best purchases anyone in their 20s or 30s can make to build wealth and guarantee freedom for the future. I think it's going to be life-changing for people. I talked about so many things on that video, everything from, you know, obviously investing, like I've talked about, things like, you know, marrying well. You know, who you marry actually matters a lot. Now, I'm going to tell you now, yeah.
You can say that again.
People, if you marry the wrong person for the wrong reasons, you have probably made one of the worst possible mistakes of your life, because it destroys you emotionally, destroys you psychologically, destroys you from your bank balance perspective, because divorce is expensive. So one of the best things you can do is really trying to get into the right relationship. And, you know, it does matter who you decide to settle with, because understanding each other's, money mindsets and all those things. I don't want to waste time, but that's a very important thing. But I want you to go and watch that video. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I cover so many things, everything from having the right insurance. You know, insurance is very important for protecting wealth and preserving wealth, life insurance and all those things. I also talk about things like, some, out there ideas, like, people may want to consider, how do you get a second passport? You'll be surprised to know that having a second passport plays a very significant role for your future wealth, potentially, because it gives you options around the world and in doing many other things. So, people can go and watch it as a way of getting introduced to our
definitely
world.
We're going to put it in the show notes. Definitely.
Yeah, go to the Humble Penny YouTube channel, and it's titled the 12 best purchases to make in your 20s and 30s. That's what it's called. The
Hmm.
12 best purchases to make in your 20s and 30s.
Okay. To make. Yeah, I'm gonna put that in the show notes as part of the reference because I think
Sure.
it's something that because for me, getting people, getting great minds on the podcast, number one, and this is selfish because I want to build relationships. Like there are amazing people in the world today that their story need to be heard. And I mean, in this podcast, we have our our reach. Canada is on the top of the list, but Nigeria is on top of the list. So I'm really connected to, back home. So I really want
Nice.
people who have stories out there, more of their stories to be heard. Because what we hear online, for example, on all these blogs, is that people travel out, people who move out are not doing well, and they're
Yeah.
struggling. But I want to bring stories of those who are outside, who are doing well, to help those that are back home. So
Yeah.
definitely, this is one of the reasons why I bring people on, and also to share the resources that they have. Like your book, definitely, we're gonna have it on the podcast. With this
Financial
video,
joy. Yeah.
it should
Thank
be
you, man.
something. I'm gonna get my copy. I mean, I've been, yeah, I get books, but sometimes I stall on getting books because I'm still trying to read what I will have.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have
I
to
hear
get
you.
this. I have to get financial joy, at least for myself or for my wife, because my wife is very big on
Thank you.
finances. And you talk about who you marry. She changed the game. Like it's important who you marry. For those who are watching, listening, you had to get married, trying to make the decision. Open your ears. Who you get married to can change the
Trust
game
me.
of your finances. This is for free. Telling you for free. Okay, the last question. What is one important advice for parents with young kids to set their kids up for financial success?
Okay. So the first thing I would say is um there's a few things. Well, I'd say the first thing is begin as early as you can to talk to your children about money. So if you're learning stuff, say for example, if you're learning investing, teach your children as you're learning as well. Very, very important. But one of the most practical things we've done for our children is to open investing accounts for our children. So in the UK, we call them junior ISAs. There'll be different there'll be equivalents in Canada,
Yeah.
USA, different parts of the world. But effectively, if you can open an investing account for your children, choose a fixed amount to be saving and investing in there. It could be $50, £100, whatever it is you want to do, but make it consistent and get your children involved. Don't just do it and say, yeah, I'm doing it for my kids. I want you over time to get them involved in a process. Like my wife and I, we call it the process of co-investing. We co-invest with our children. Let's say, for example, that our child got, say, £100 birthday money. If our child puts £50 of his birthday money into his investing account, we will co-invest. We will put £50, or we may match it and double what he's put into the account. So
Hmm.
that way he is incentivized to want to put money away. We're trying to teach them that powerful principle of delaying gratification. One of the other really powerful things you can teach your children is really the simplicity of budgeting. Let them know that when they make some money, they can live on half of what they make. If they get some money from grandma, granddad, godmother, godfather, whoever, friends, they can maybe spend 50% of it. But with 50%, a portion of it can be saved and invested. 30% can be saved and invested. 50% can be spent. 20% or 10% can be spent on helping other people, being a bit more generous. You're trying to teach them certain qualities whilst you still can influence them a lot earlier. And the earlier you can do that, the better. They'll develop that mindset. And then the final thing I want to share is about budgeting. Like we give our children certain budgets for certain things. So for example, if it's your birthday, you're going to get £30 or maybe $40 equivalent. Now, the beauty about that is if we go to the shops and they want to spend that money, for example, to buy some toys, they already know their budget. So they will say something like, oh, I
Hmm.
can't buy this because it's above my budget, or I'm happy to buy this because it's within my budget. So that type of language is very, very important for children to begin to embrace very, very early on. Because, if you can teach a child to live within their means, then you set them up very well for the future as adults.
At what age is it recommended, if you were to advise, that you start with your kids on this part?
So open an investing account. We opened ours from birth. Literally, as soon as they were born, open an investing account.
Hmm.
Now, probably from like the age of two or three, you can buy them a little piggy bank, and just little things that mean that they're starting to engage with money. They can start to count physical money. They can count notes, they can count coins, they can come with you to the shop, they can pay for things using your debit card, they can touch on your, the contactless. They can just get involved, because what you don't want your children to think is that money comes from the bank. You want them to understand that money comes through an exchange.
Of value.
An exchange. You create value, you generate an income. You buy something because somebody offered you value, you pay for something for that to happen. So you want them to get involved in the minute details of the exchanges that are happening. You can even start to have conversations, like sometimes we're driving down the road and we stop off at a traffic light. I might ask our children and say, hey, how do you think that shop makes money? Yeah. And you're getting them to think. You're like, oh, wow, maybe they sell sweets. Maybe that's how they make money. Why does that shop have more customers than that shop over there? Which shop do you think makes more money than the other, right? Now you're making money a conversation, not just a taboo subject. Because a lot of our households, money is a very taboo subject. Nobody talks about money. Nobody talks about bills. Nobody talks about like the economy. Nobody talks about anything, right? But if you make money a subject of your dinner table, then it becomes normalized.
Normalized. It reminds me of something that happened some time ago. My daughter, and we bought something, because we do this thing where we get stuff, we flip, and we kind of sell. And she knows right now. She's 6, and one day she came in. We got something for her, and she asked a question, and I was like, "Dad, are we gonna sell this, or do I keep it?" I was like, "Okay, what do you want to do?" She was like,
Interesting, isn't it?
I think I want to sell it, because if I sell it, I'll probably get my money.
Yeah.
I was shocked. Like I mean, that detail of conversation. So I think once you begin to do that, because kids don't just learn from what you say, they learn from what you do, the model, they see what you're doing, and they learn from it. So, wow. Thank you so much, Emeka. For those who don't know you as Emeka, Ken, thank you for being such a blessing, because I think that I believe this is going to be a very powerful session that people will get to watch and watch again. Thank you so much. What is the best way? I know you're on YouTube, but what is to connect with you? Because I think a lot of people need to know about what you do, about your books. What is the best way to reach you?
So the best ways are, firstly, go to our website at www.thehumblepenny.com. Go there. That's our blog. Read our blog. Check out what we do. Over there, you can see all our other resources, whether it's our free resources or our paid resources. You can check them out. Our book is titled Financial Joy. You can find it everywhere. You can buy books on Amazon, Waterstones, Barnes & Noble, Audible. You can buy it anywhere pretty much. Please check it out. It's a Sunday Times bestseller. We are literally the first Black couple in the UK to become Sunday Times bestsellers. So it's a pretty big deal.
Amazing. So amazing.
Check out the book. You can also check out our academy at financialjoyacademy.com. It's a membership business where you can access our courses, masterclasses. You can join our coaching sessions, our community, accountability partners. You can access it from anywhere in the world. So definitely check that out. But other than that, just follow us at The Humble Penny everywhere, on Instagram, YouTube. You can find me on LinkedIn by searching Ken Okoroafor, as well as on our YouTube channel, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think, joining and plugging into what Ken is doing. I've been a fan from afar. I've watched his videos, and he's been a blessing. And having him on the show today, it's an awesome privilege. Thank you, Ken, for accepting our invitation and for sharing so openly. I think this is going to be, I always say that podcast is a major part of the future of education. And I know for a fact that it has helped me just plugging into, I tell people, when you're driving, what do you do? What do you listen to? Like, how do you create an environment where you're constantly learning? And I think podcasts, plugging on your radio, driving, you can begin to learn amazing things. So this is one for the books. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot from this. So thank you so much. For those who are
Thank you, man.
If you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment about this episode. Let us what you learned from this episode. You have questions for Ken, drop it in the notes. Also, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please be sure to give us a follow, like, share, and make sure that you always tune in to this podcast every week. And to become your way in the next episode, remember your growth is personal. No one is responsible for your personal growth, but you. Stay blessed and bye for now.
So, yeah.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you love this episode, share it with your friends on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. If you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our episode, and give us a rating. This will help our podcast get more visibility to those who don't know about this podcast. Remember, your growth is personal. No one is responsible for your personal growth but you. Stay blessed.